G'day legends, I hope that you're well. I confirmed with my friend yesterday about the claims of the disruption on the road to Kramovo through the counterattack in Yahidny and the fall of Berkivka in the Bakhmut area. And he confirmed with what I said was correct, at least to his information. So as well as anything, you need to take everything with a grain of salt, because a lot of information is second, third, fourth hand, but I try and get it as close as I can. And from this guy on the ground, that is what he told me and confirmed that. And I'll show you on the map when we get to that area. Now, we're on here on the map, as always. We have Ukraine, Kyiv, Romania, Poland, Belarus, and Russia. The red is the areas taken by Russia since the 24th of February, 1 year and 1 day ago in 2022. And the darker red maroon is areas taken since 2014, this being Crimea, which we will talk about and hear about a little bit later on. Now, where I want to bring you is down here into Krasnohovka, where we have seen some Russian advance over the past 24 hours. So we're here on the 24th yesterday, which we were speaking on, and then today, the 25th. You can see there has been some level of ground taken out through here. And I just wanted to have a look at what sort of ground that was. So if we go onto the satellite map, because as you know, when we move through urban areas, you move a lot more slowly than through open ground, typically. So as you can see here, this is open. These look like fields. There's probably been dug in defensive positions here on both sides, but has moved up to the border of Krasnohovka, this small village here in the east of Ukraine. So there has been some movement there. I did have a look on Google Maps to see if we could see any of that ground, but there was no pins to drop in that area and have a look. Next, we're going to go to Mariinka, down in here, and have a look, as there was some slight movement up to this main road coming through. And if anyone who watched my video yesterday, we had a look at what it looks like from this bridge location here. So over the past 24 hours, a slight move through from this last road to here, confirmed by deep state maps. Now, people did point out that yes, in urban warfare like this, it is house to house and it is incredibly slow. And this front line probably moves hour to hour with street fighting. I know earlier in the war in Kharkiv, there was areas which were Russian occupied at night and then Ukraine occupied during the day, or vice versa, because the front line is always fluid in these areas. But you can see that there was some small advance in the city here of Mariinka. Now, where we'll move to now quickly is up into Bakhmut to see if there has been any advance overnight from the 24th to the 25th. And as you can see, there's this small advance in the north, just east of Yahidny. There's some more advancement along there. So from where we're looking just to almost the dead east of Bakhmut up through into Yahidny, there has been some ground taken. And let's have a look on the satellite map and see what ground this is. Sorry, the map took a little bit to update then. So this area here, which looks like sort of open field up to this waterway, which we've spoken about, this waterway could be a problem down in Bakhmut as it widens up through here. And I have seen some people claiming that Russia will take in the near future this side, the eastern side of the river. So yeah, from the 24th to the 25th, we're just seeing this little bit here. And what I wanted to have a look at was, we've looked at before the width of, this basin down here, and the river is fairly major here, but I wanted to see what sort of width this was up in this region, because we had seen earlier, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, where Russia had actually crossed here. So I've opened up to Bakhmut on Google Maps. I was a bit early on you there. And where we want to go look and see if there's a pin drop somewhere along this river. So we can drop down here onto this basin. And this is looking towards now where the Russian positions are now. And this is looking, if I'm correct on this, back down into Bakhmut. And you can see that this isn't a very major crossing. Now, I'm not an armoured vehicle expert. I'm not sure how armour would go crossing this. It would all depend on the depth and how steep the sides are. But infantry should have no issues through them. So just to give you an idea on the ground. And I have had people say it is quite traumatic, me showing this frontline movement over a few days and showing, on the ground and, where people live in their homes. And I completely understand that. But for part of this reporting, it is crucial, I believe, that I do this so you can actually see the movements on the map. To be honest, that's just part of this, and I'm going to have to show movements each way as things come and go and things change, as the front line is always fluid and there's bits that come, east and west or north and south as this war continues. So that's the end of the maps, and there was a lot of information come out over the past 24 hours. Yesterday was marking the 1-year anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion, but also the first batch of Leopard 2 tanks arrived in Ukraine from Poland. According to the Prime Minister of Ukraine, Poland sent 4 Leopard 2 tanks of the 14 promised, arriving yesterday. He shared photos of him standing alongside Polish Prime Minister in front of the Leopards at an unidentified location in Ukraine. He said a year ago, tanks drove into Ukraine to deprive Ukrainians of their freedom. Tanks have also arrived in Ukraine today, but in order to protect freedom. Delivery time of more Leopards promised by other NATO countries, such as Germany, Spain, Finland and Portugal, is still unclear. German Defence Minister Boris Pistorius said on February 24th that his country would increase the promised number of Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine from 14 to 18, but he did not elaborate when. He said that last month the equipment would likely arrive in Ukraine at the end of March or the start of April, while crews are still training in Germany. These tanks, depending on the variant, can give a weapons overmatch, especially to Soviet-era designed tanks. Although, like any main battle tank, they have limitations and nothing is a silver bullet solution on the battlefield. Tanks ideally need infantry and air support combined arms, which is one of the reasons we've seen Russian huge tank losses, especially in the beginning of this war, and due to a number of factors, but primarily the poor drills and incompetence of their planning. A lone tank, no matter what variant and how good, is a sitting duck with no infantry or air support. And these tanks are no match for modern anti-armor weapons, as we've seen with even top-of-the-line Russian tanks, although, most Soviet design, but have been absolutely no match for javelins or NLAWs. Tanks also have huge limitations in urban terrain, such as very simple things like barrel elevation, their height, and their width. If you watch any documentary on Russia in Grozny, this became a huge issue very quickly, and they were basically sitting ducks. This is why Russia have the unique BMP-T Terminator designed for supporting tanks with a high rate of fire, high rate of elevation, although their use during this conflict has been very limited, at least visually seen, with the first visually killed one of these Terminators only earlier this month. I remember learning about these on my anti-armor course. Now, additionally, Poland will send 60 PT-91 Twardie main battle tanks to Ukraine, Polish Prime Minister says in the coming days. The PT-91 is a Polish upgraded version of the Soviet-era T-72 tank. And if you don't know what you're specifically looking for, you won't see much difference between them. Since the beginning of the war, Poland has provided Ukraine with about 250 tanks. Now, also something that has been everywhere is China has released its 12-point peace plan. China has remained somewhat neutral through this invasion, but has refused to criticize Russia's invasion of Ukraine or even actually refer to it as an invasion. But it has accused the United States and its allies of provoking the conflict, saying it is fanning the flames by providing Ukraine with arms. Although many point at the classic from Desmond Tutu, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. I'll link below the website where I got all this information, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China, and you can read through this full plan, and I'll only have a little bit and piece of it here, so these aren't the full points. But number one is respecting the sovereignty of all countries, universally recognizing international law, including the purpose and principles of the United Nations Charter, must be strictly observed. Number two, abandoning the Cold War mentality. The security of a country should not be pursued at the expense of others. Number three, ceasing hostilities. Conflict and war benefit no one. All parties must stay rational and exercise restraint, avoiding fanning the flames and aggravating tensions, and prevent the crisis from deteriorating further or even spiraling out of control. Number four is resuming peace talks. Dialogue and negotiation are the only viable solution to the Ukrainian crisis. Number 5, resolving the humanitarian crisis. All measures conducive to easing the humanitarian crisis must be encouraged and supported. Humanitarian operations should follow the principles of neutrality and impartiality. The humanitarian issues should not be politicized. Number 6, protecting civilians and prisoners of war. Parties to the conflict should strictly abide by international humanitarian law, avoiding attacking civilians or civilian facilities, protect women, children, and other victims of the conflict, and respect the basic right of POWs. Number 7, keeping nuclear power plants safe. China opposes armed attacks against nuclear power plants and other peaceful nuclear facilities, and calls on all parties to comply with the international law, including the Convention on Nuclear Safety, CNS, and resolutely avoid man-made nuclear accidents. Number 8, reducing strategic risks. Nuclear weapons must not be used and nuclear wars must not be fought. Number 9, facilitating grain export. All parties need to implement the Black Sea Grain Initiative signed by Russia, Turkey, Ukraine, and the UN fully and effectively in a balanced manner, and support the UN in playing an important role in this regard. Number 10, stopping unilateral sanctions. Unilateral sanctions and maximum pressure cannot solve the issue. They only create new problems. China opposes unilateral sanctions unauthorized by the UN Security Council. Number 11, keeping industrial and supply chains stable. All parties should earnestly maintain the existing world economic system and oppose using the world economy as a tool or weapon for political purposes. Number 12, promoting post-conflict reconstruction. The international community needs to take measures to support post-conflict reconstruction in conflict zones. China stands ready to provide assistance and play a constructive role in this endeavour. President Zelensky has said, China has shown its thoughts. I believe that the fact that China started talking about Ukraine is not bad. Zelensky said there were points in the Chinese proposals that he agreed with and that there are ones that we don't. But it's something. I plan to meet with Xi Jinping and believe this will be beneficial for our countries and for the security in the world. Ukraine allies have expressed skepticism of the proposal, and US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said on CNN that this first reaction to the proposal was that it could stop at point 1, which is respect the sovereignty of all nations. He added, this war could end tomorrow if Russia stopped attacking Ukraine and withdrew its forces. This is a war of choice. German government spokesman Wolfgang Buschner said the Chinese proposal contained several important points, but was missing a key one. First and foremost, the withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukraine. Wall Street Journal reports also Germany, France, Britain see stronger ties between NATO and Ukraine as a way to encourage Kyiv to start peace talks with Russia later this year. Officials from 3 governments said some of Kyiv's West partners have growing doubts over its ability to reconquer all of its territory. Citing a senior French official who was not named, we keep repeating that Russia mustn't win, but what does that mean? If the war goes on for long enough with this intensity, Ukraine's losses will become unbearable. Continuing, and no one believes that they will be able to retrieve Crimea. US officials declined to comment on the proposed NATO security pact. Washington has said that it wants Ukraine to be sufficiently armed after the war to deter any future Russian attack. So what do you think of this plan? I know there's a lot to unpack here, and we'll be doing that over the next coming videos and next couple of days. But I'd just like to know what you guys think about the proposals and about the comments from, particularly the French, who was not named, of which minister actually said that, which probably says a lot in it because they're not willing to put their name to it. But what do you guys think? But look, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today, and look after yourself. And if you'd like to support me, there's links down below, but never feel obliged. So look after yourselves, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye-bye.